When the doc says that's a wrap, that's a wrap. It's a done deal from Costa Mesa, California, as the Raiders complete 11 days of practice. We'll talk about that plus a whole lot more on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 8th, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thanks so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. And as always, you're checking us out on YouTube. You know we appreciate that. The show is growing each and every day, and that's because of your support. And, of course, it's because of my man Ari. He's done a great job each and every day getting us up on YouTube, making sure we're looking good, we're sounding good. Even days when I'm having bad allergies and I got snot bubbles coming out my nose. Not really that bad. But, Ari's always cleaning me up, man, making sure that we're looking good and sounding good. So we definitely shout him out. We appreciate him. Check him out on Twitter at Ari Producers. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Your calls and texts will come up in segment number 3 of today's show. A lot of feedback off all the shows we've been doing the last few days, talking about the defense, talking about the quarterbacks, just talking about the team in general. A lot of excitement. Built-up excitement as Raiders football is right around the corner with the first preseason game coming up on Saturday. So your calls and texts will come up in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Segment number 2, on the final day of Raiders training camp at Costa Mesa, former longtime NFL defensive tackle from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Raiders, Gerald McCoy, was in attendance. And so really was an awesome display. What I saw, really the best day of training camp was the last day of training camp, and it was really what I saw after training camp between Gerald McCoy, Christian Wilkins, and Max Crosby. So I was able to enjoy what they had going on following practice. I had a chance to catch up to Gerald McCoy after him, Max, and Christian all met and huddled for a little while. So you'll hear that conversation I had with Gerald McCoy. Very good conversation, very good interview. I'm so excited about it. You'll hear that coming up. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes, just kind of a recap of the 11 days of practice as the Raiders are now ready to head back to Henderson coming up in a day or so, and then get ready for their trip to Minnesota for Saturday's preseason game number 1. We'll get into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is LinkedIn Jobs. It helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Off top, just want to say I thought that the 11 days that they practiced out at the Jack Hammett Sports Complex here in Costa Mesa, California, I thought it was a great job, right? I think that everything that the Raiders wanted to accomplish, they were able to accomplish. Now, I don't think that they're walking away from Costa Mesa with a firm understanding of who their starting quarterback is, but as far as just building the team, working on the defense, working on the camaraderie, building the brotherhood, everything that AP had talked about, really kind of getting their mind focused on football and football only, they definitely did that. I thought that the complex, they did a really good job preparing the fields each and every day, having everything set up really well. And even though there was only a handful of fans each and every day, thought they did a good job with that as well. And really, I got to give a lot of props to Raider Nation that did show up and was able to, come out to practice and be there for a day or a couple days. And I got to meet a lot of you. And a lot of you have told me, Q, I listen to your show every day, man. It's awesome. I wake up to it. And funny, real quick story. On Wednesday, the final day, I was standing there talking to a few folks that I know locally in Las Vegas that listen to my radio show and know who I am. And we're talking about, being out and about around town in Vegas during the football season. And a young lady, and I hate that I didn't get her name, and I apologize for that. She asked me, she said, "Do you have a podcast by chance?" And I said, "Yeah, I do the Locked On Raiders podcast." I knew it. I hear your show every single day. Matter of fact, I think I got the latest one downloaded right now. Like, that was awesome. Like, you really don't have any idea what that means to hear that, from someone who's a listener of the show each and every day. So I just want to thank all of Raider Nation that I was able to meet, take some pictures with, hang out with for a few, talking some Raider football out at the Jack Hammett Sports Complex. Again, it wasn't enough fans. It wasn't what the Raiders wanted. They wanted to make it a big deal, and they weren't able to. But for all the fans that were able to come out and check it out, be in attendance, hats off to you. I thought you did a hell of a job. And everyone that I got to meet, thank you so much for taking the time to introduce yourself, shake my hand, talk, and even talk about this podcast and what it means to you. So big ups to you. But all in all, I mean, the biggest takeaway from the training camp was the fact that, the Raiders defense, as I mentioned on Wednesday's show, has a chance to be elite. It really does. And it's funny. I wanted to really slow my roll and not go there and not get so excited about the defense based off what I saw. But the more people I talked to, the more I watched, the more I observed, I realized this is the real deal, right? This is the real deal defense, man. This is something to get excited about. Not only do they have, the first team depth, but they have depth second team, third team. They're going to have some tough decisions to make when it comes down time to break it down to the 53-man roster. And, I like some of the young talent. And for years, when the Raiders were drafting, they were struggling drafting really good, talented dudes. That's why the cupboards were always bare. Like, they would have, first team talent, but they wouldn't have anything behind them. So if they had an injury here or there, it'd be a problem. Like, the secondary right now is stacked, right? Which is awesome. It's great to see. Brandon Faison, he returned to practice on Wednesday. D-Cam Richardson, I talked about him quite a bit. MJ Devonshire, a 7th-round pick, he showed up and made some plays. Like, there's some real deal depth. JB, Ja'Cory Bennett played his tail off. I think the secondary probably played the best in training camp, period. Defensively, obviously the defensive line is nasty. They're going to be getting after the quarterback. Offensively, I'll say it was the Jacoby Myers show. Jacoby Myers really showed up and showed out, and I told anyone who would listen that if he didn't get hit and that dirty hit by Kareem Jackson week 1 and suffer a concussion, he's a 1,000-yard receiver last year. I think he's definitely going to be a 1,000-yard receiver this year. He's just too smooth. I mean, obviously, barring injury, too smooth, always finds a way to get open. He is the real deal, right? I mean, of course, Devontae Adams is the real deal, but Jacoby Myers ain't no slouch, right? I knew going into last season he was going to be a factor because he had been the number 1 wide receiver in New England, and now he didn't have to be the number 1 wide receiver. I knew it was probably going to do even better for him and what he was able to do, and he did not disappoint last year. I promise you he's not going to disappoint this year. He is the real deal, and really it doesn't matter who's throwing him the rock. Whether it's Minshew or O'Connell, he's going to find a way to get open and get the ball. Brock Bowers is as advertised, right? The Raiders are going to find many ways to get him involved in the offense. AP was talking to NFL Network on Wednesday. I had to sit down with them probably about 7 or 8 minutes. I might bring that to the show tomorrow. And he was talking about Brock Bowers, and, he was talking about him trying to block Max, and that, after he said, you know what? I think we're going to use Brock Bowers both out there. They have young wide receivers that have a chance to make some plays. Christian Wilkerson, not to be confused with Christian Wilkins, the defensive side of things, and I've obviously confused the two. When Christian Wilkins signed as a free agent, I got Christian Wilkerson and I'm confused so many times, and I guarantee now that I just said that about 8 times, I probably confused you as well. But he was a good wide receiver last year, made the roster originally, played in the game against Denver, and then somewhere between week 1 and like week 3, either got injured or wasn't on the roster, but he still looks as advertised as he did last preseason, and so I'm sure we'll get to see a lot of him this preseason, and he'll probably be one of those, like, man, you got to hold on to him. Remember him and Cam Sims were kind of battling last year? Well, the Raiders are going to have some questions that, who's going to be the 4th wide receiver, the 5th wide receiver? Will they carry 6 wide receivers? Only time will tell. Can Trey Tucker continue to develop, right? They need that speed element to be a weapon. We'll see, right? We'll find out sooner rather than later. And, that's just parts of it. But, again, all in all, I thought training camp went really well. Really, they only had one bad injury. That was to Jeff Foreman. That was unfortunate. He was the one that I mentioned before, was carted off and had to get an air cast put on him immediately. And you just knew that it was a bad injury. And that was not good. They didn't have any fights. They had, just a push and shove here and there, just a couple. It's like not a big deal, nothing at all. It wasn't like what you saw in Seattle where DK Metcalf is swinging his helmet at teammates, and what you saw with the Giants and Lions where they end up getting a $200,000 fine for each organization because they were fighting so much. They didn't have any of that. And I honestly thought, once the pads went on, that they would get irritated with each other and probably come to blows a couple times. That never happened. Like, there was a couple, hard hits from Max, including a hit on Gardner Minshew on the scrimmage that they had Saturday night. But all in all, man, it was a really clean, training camp for the Silver and Black, and I feel like everyone really bonded closely, and it was described to me on the radio as it seems like this Raiders team is an absolute true family, and that's exactly how it felt, just kind of watching and seeing and observing and listening to these guys. It seems like the older guys are trying to coach up the younger guys. The younger guys want to be coached up, right? And even the older guys want to be coached up. Like I saw after practice on Wednesday when Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins were both talking to Gerald McCoy, who spent just a quick minute with the Raiders before he got injured and wasn't able to play, but he was giving them game. I mean, he was up there really coaching them up, just kind of giving them, little tricks to the trade, explaining to them why these things work that he was telling them and, what to look for. And just it was awesome to watch. And honestly, I really feel like I was the only one who stood there for the whole 35 minutes that they were there with him talking and just watched, observed, just kind of wanted to be. I really wish I had been closer so I can hear every word, but it was close enough to see them just really putting in the work and really trying to soak up knowledge from a guy like Gerald McCoy, who, obviously had a hell of a career, did some great things. And, that was a guy that I remember when he was with the Raiders, a few years back before he got injured. He was a guy that I was excited about. I knew he was at the end of his career, but just because he has, so much knowledge, I thought, man, this is going to be a guy that's going to be really good for that Raiders defense and that Raiders locker room in general. Obviously, it didn't last very long because he got injured, but man, what could have been with Gerald McCoy. Speaking of Gerald McCoy, I got a chance to catch up with him after he talked to Christian Wilkins, after he talked to Mad Max Crosby. I caught up with him for a few minutes, got a conversation about the team, what he was talking about with the two alpha dogs on that Raiders defense, and more. You'll hear that conversation coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of this show, which is LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just a job board, though. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, well, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. All you got to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Excited for you to hear this conversation when I had on a Wednesday with longtime defensive tackle in the National Football League, Gerald McCoy, who was at Raiders training camp on Wednesday with NFL Network. And he was the guy that the minute he walked in had a big smile on his face. He told us off top that, hey, look, I knew I was doing a training camp tour. I only cared about being in Tampa Bay and with the Raiders. I had to be at those two for sure. Spent a quick cup of coffee with the Raiders. Unfortunately, had a knee injury. I believe it was in the first preseason game, and the Raiders never got to see him again, and that was unfortunate. But I did get to catch up with him on Wednesday after he was spitting game to Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, and he explains that and a whole lot more in this conversation. Check it out. Myself and Gerald McCoy from Wednesday at Raiders training camp. Here at Raiders training camp with Gerald McCoy, longtime NFL defensive tackle, and I just tweeted out a picture of you, Max, and Christian Wilkins, and I said $1 million worth of game for free 99. What was that like, being able to give that knowledge back to those guys?
So when I was a rookie, I came in, we had older guys, but there's a difference in being an older guy and a vet. And I didn't have any vets. Vets are willing to help the younger guy, teach him the ropes, show him what it takes to be a pro versus a professional. We got a lot of professionals, but being a pro is completely different. I didn't have any vet D linemen, and I vowed then, my rookie year, to any opportunity I had to help somebody with getting better at this game, I would do it. And both of those guys, those was my little brothers.
Right.
I was here with Max. I've been knowing Christian since he came out of Clemson. So talking to them is just like talking to family. But if I know I got knowledge that can help and all they asking is what can help me be great, here, take it.
That's what you were like that in Tampa. You were then that like with the Dallas Cowboys. I remember you there. And then like you said, when you came here with the Raiders, and I remember you going to the podium and everyone walked away from it like, wow, he's about to really give some knowledge to that defensive line. I know it didn't work out the way you were hoping. Injuries impacted it. But what was that experience like, and how much knowledge were you able to give to the team?
I still, to this day, talk to some of my guys that was on the Raiders then. And, Max, obviously me and Max, we've stayed close. But what I try and do is more so than just watching me do it, because I know I'm going to give you the example.
Yeah.
But you can't coach everybody the same. You can't teach everybody the same stuff. You got to meet everybody where they at. Like me and Max were just talking. I was talking to Max about what he does versus what Christian does. You take what y'all do and you bring it together, and now you got a dominant group.
Right.
For me, it's nothing to pass on along knowledge, man. Like what? Why would you have the knowledge? You know these guys are want to live out the same dream that you worked for, that you wanted to live out. So why not help them? Because I know I prayed that I had somebody to help me. Now, I didn't have anybody in the room. But Warren Sapp, he took me under his wing, and week in and week out, he's calling me, send me film, show me this, and this. And that's really how I started improving, because somebody actually took the time to tell me, hey, G, that ain't right. But what you can do is this. I work at it, and here you go.
And, it's one thing to be able to share your knowledge, but what about those guys? What does it say about them that they want to soak it in when they're at a high level in their career? They're playing at a very high level, but they're still learning every day.
Max Crosby always tags what he does with more is required, because he's never satisfied. He's never okay with what people see. He doesn't want to be Max Crosby now. Then in a few years, he's no longer Max Crosby, and then you say, hey, man, I remember, man, Max had a cool little run. No, he wants to be legendary. He wants to be remembered. He wants to be a pioneer, where you say that's how the game is supposed to be played. When you start listing these guys of how the game is supposed to be played, the memorable, legendary players, Max wants to be that, and Christian is the same. Quick story, how I met Christian, he reached out to me in the DM and said, hey, I'm coming out. I don't know if you know who I am. I'm coming out into the draft. And I just want to, wherever you at, I'll fly to you. I'll come meet you. Yeah. I want to get better. I want to be great. I don't want to just be good at Clemson. I want to take the league by storm. And he flew to me in San Diego where I was training, and we got a week's worth of work in, because he asked. We wasn't working out at the same gym, and we just started working together. He asked me and was seeking out the knowledge, which is funny to see it be that way, is because things come full circle. That's what I did with Sapp. Sapp said, I got so much knowledge to give, but people are not reaching out and wanting to learn and get better. But Christian's like that. I was like that. Max is like that. So that's why you see guys start to have success in their careers and become great players.
And that's what separates the good from the greats.
Absolutely.
And again, we're here with Gerald McCoy at Raiders training camp. And, you know Christian, you know Max, you've been in that Raiders defensive line. This defense looks like it has a chance to be really special. What are you seeing just even from a distance with this Raiders defense?
Yeah, they definitely do, man. They got so many dominant guys up front, man. One thing I love seeing is I remember when Malcolm was a rookie. Seeing where Malcolm's at now, had 8 sacks last year, and it's just only getting better. Diablo. Who else was here when I was here? Nate.
Yeah, Nate.
They bringing in Spielman's here. They got a lot of great players for this defense, and they gonna need them. Yeah. They gonna need them, man. The offense, we honestly don't know what we gonna get so far. They still trying to figure out who's gonna be who at quarterback, and they have weapons. Yeah. They definitely have weapons. Brock Bowers. Bring him in. Everybody, you hear about how he's been taking over camp, and you hear about all the stories about him in Georgia. Obviously, you got your Devontae Adams, your Jacoby Myers. They have a really good group, but this team will be led by this defense, and the proof is in the pudding, man. Weeks 9 through 18 last year, number 1 in scoring defense. That ain't come by accident. Right. So, me personally, I believe they hired the right coach. They bringing in the right guys, have the right mindset. And when you got a guy like Max Crosby leading your team, you can't only do nothing but go up from there.
You've had an opportunity to talk to AP as he is the head coach of the team. What do you think? I think he's the right guy. I thought he was the right guy about 3 weeks into him being the intern.
Right.
It was just something like you just understood it. But what do you see from him, even in his first training camp that he had here?
So when Max was first screaming from the mountaintop, hire AP, a lot of people was like, well, dang, Max, why are you saying that? What are you saying? Max understands being a great head coach is more than just X's and O's. Being a coach is more than just X's and O's. If you think about the definition of a coach, it's taking important people from where they are to where they want to be.
Yeah.
You can't just do that with X's and O's. You have to get up there and be able to captivate a room and get a group of men to come together for one common cause, and that's what AP's been able to do. The reason that team changed is because those guys went out on that field and said, hey, I'm going to die today to be better for him.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to be better for him because I believe in you. When you become a head coach, you got to get guys to buy in and believe in what you're saying. Win, lose, or draw, we believe in what this guy is saying. And that's what AP brings to this team, and that's why this team will be completely different with him at the helm.
You mentioned that they're going to lead this team. The defense, there's no doubt about it, is going to lead this team. When you're in that defensive room and you know you got to lead the squad, what is the mentality like? Does it change, or you just go out there and handle your business?
No, you just play defense.
Yeah.
You got to score. How you win without scoring?
Right.
If they don't score, they don't win. So that's all you focus on. You don't worry about, hey, if you're so good on defense, why don't y'all go score?
Right.
Take the ball away and y'all go score if you're so good. That's how I see it. So we don't worry about what the offense got going. We used to be at halftime. We didn't talk to them. They didn't talk to us. We worry about us. It don't matter if we getting 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out and they not scoring. So what? Okay, don't let them score all game. If they score, we lost because we let them score. Forget what the offense is doing. And as a defense, that's got to be your mindset.
That's what they told us after the Raiders lost 3-0 to the Vikings last year. They said, we didn't do our job. We didn't do enough. They held the Vikings to 3 points, though, right?
They shouldn't have got 3.
Yeah.
If we want to win, don't let them score.
Right.
As simple as that. Well, somebody got to score. Hey, listen, then why don't we go score?
Right.
If we get an interception or a sack fumble and we scoop it and run into the other end zone, that counts as points, right?
It does.
Okay, then. So why didn't we get it? Why didn't we get a takeaway and go score? Why didn't we get a sack fumble and go score? We can go score too.
Absolutely.
We're allowed to score.
That's right.
As a defense, that has to be your mindset.
I love it. And you're here with the NFL Network. You mentioned, that the training camps you were going on tour of, you want to make sure you're in Tampa Bay and you want to make sure you're here with the Raiders. How special has this been? How special has this been just to be on these training camp tours?
Oh, it's incredible, man. I work in studio, but being able to be around the game this close, this impactful is incredible. It's really a dream come true. I've been having fun.
Coach Gerald McCoy, it sounds like?
Nah.
One more question for you. Boomer Sooner, going to the SEC. What are your thoughts?
SEC, EBT, CBS, ABC, I don't care what it is. It's just 3 letters to me. We the greatest school in the country. The conference don't matter. Boomer.
Now tell me that wasn't a conversation. Tell me that wasn't worth the price of admission. I said on the radio after I played that interview, that was worth my trip to Costa Mesa. That was worth me being in Costa Mesa for like 20 days. Right there. That 8-minute interview, that was worth me being there. If that's what I knew I was going to get when I signed up to come to Costa Mesa and made sure that I had all the Airbnb, had all my equipment, had everything in line to do what I had to do, now I would have said, yep, I'll do it every day of the week and twice on Sunday if I know I'm going to have a conversation like that. That was good stuff. I was really pumped up and fired up by talking with Gerald McCoy, and you just hear the game and understand why, his explanations of everything. You can understand why Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins was there soaking up the knowledge, and also give them props. They could have just said, I'm Max Crosby. I just got voted, a top 10 player in the National Football League by my peers, right? In the top 100 list, I'm top 10. I don't need to listen to this guy who's retired. Christian Wilkins could have said, I just signed a $100 million free agency contract. I don't need to listen to this guy, but they didn't. That's what separates good players from great players, or even great players from elite players, right? The elite players never stop learning, never start working, never stop grinding. No matter how good they are, no matter how much praise they get from people, they keep pushing, trying to pick up every little trick they can, every little trade. You heard what Gerald McCoy had to say about Max Crosby, and even Christian Wilkins reaching out to him when he didn't even have a relationship and said, I'll come to you. That was powerful stuff right there. So hopefully you enjoyed that conversation as much as I enjoyed having that conversation with the great Gerald McCoy. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts throughout that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about Game Time. What is Game Time? Glad you asked. It's an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball. It makes getting tickets faster, easier, right? Prices on Game Time, they actually go down on the app the closer it gets to the first pitch. Great last-minute deals, all-in prices. They even give you views from your seat. Their lowest price guarantee, nothing is better than Game Time. It takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Not only that, though, it's not just Major League Baseball tickets. It's sporting events in general, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever the case may be. They've got flash deals. They've got zone deals. They've got all-in prices. And I mentioned at the top the seats, the view from your seats. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy it, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the venue, which is awesome. They have a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. What do you need to do? Well, take the guesswork out of buying tickets, Major League Baseball tickets, or any other tickets right now with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. This text comes from Gio in Northridge. It says, "Hey, Q, it's Gio from Northridge. I was wondering if you can catch me up to speed on Brock Bowers, JPJ, and Michael Mayer. Are they looking good? Are they looking bad? Is anyone hurt? I apologize for my oblivious question. I've been 100% focused on Dodger baseball, and since the boys in blue have been frustrating the hell out of me lately, I need to start shifting my gears to Raiders football. Looking forward to the season. Thanks, Q. Let's go Raiders." And Gio, thanks for the text. I appreciate you, and welcome. Welcome, just in time. First preseason game's coming up on Saturday, and I don't mind, catching you up to speed on everything. That's what I'm here for, right? So as far as Brock Bowers goes, as I mentioned in segment number 1, fantastic. He is as advertised, excited about what he's going to do this year, and I don't care who's throwing on the ball. I could be throwing on the ball, and he's going to make something happen. I probably have to hand him the ball. I don't think I'm going to be throwing it to him. I could probably just hand it off to him. But you know what? The Raiders are doing that as well. Getting him the ball in jet sweeps, lining him up in the backfield. Just whatever they could do to put the ball in his hands is exactly what they're going to do. So he is as advertised. JPJ, second-round pick. Jackson Powers-Johnson, on the other hand, not so much. He is, as you mentioned, is anyone hurt? He's on the PUP list right now. He did not get in any practice in the 11 practices here in Costa Mesa. He could come off the PUP list on, this Thursday. He could come off the PUP list on Friday. Hell, he could be available on Saturday for Minnesota. Now, I would be surprised if that was the case, but he's dealing with a concussion, which is unfortunate. He didn't get any work at all in the training camp. And so, we'll see when he returns. The date that you need to pay attention to is August 27th, right? If it gets to August 27th and he's not taken off the PUP list by then, he's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. So right now, the Raiders have Cody Whitehair sliding into that spot in the left guard spot, and Andrews Pete is holding down the left tackle spot because Colton Miller is also on the PUP list as he's recovering from offseason shoulder surgery. So both left tackle and left guard, Colton Miller and JPJ, they're both out right now on the PUP list. And then Michael Mayer, you asked about him. He's looking good. He's looking confident. Right? He's a big fella. He said earlier in the offseason he was having fun again last year after AP took over, and he was definitely having fun this offseason, right? I mean, it's just he just said that he wasn't enjoying coming to work his rookie year. But things have changed. He's really happy about the situation he's in. He loves working with Brock Bowers. That's going to be a nice 1-2 punch right there. Excited about the way that they could roll out that 12 personnel, and want to see how Luke Getsy gets creative with both Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. So I think that gets you caught up. Oh, and by the way, there's a game on Saturday. I almost said Sunday. On Saturday against the Minnesota Vikings, 1 p.m. kickoff Pacific time. So there you go. And your Dodgers, hey man, look, they're the Dodgers, right? They're going to be just fine. It's going to be, a race in the postseason. We already know how that goes down. I don't know what they're going to do in the postseason, but you know that you'll see them in the postseason. And once they're there, they got a chance. And you got Shohei Ohtani. You can't be too mad about that. So Gio, thanks for the text, man. Appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Joe in Tennessee. He's calling to talk about getting pumped up about the upcoming season and has a question about the defense and where their weakness might be. Here's Joe in Tennessee.
Hey, Q, this is Joe from Tennessee, man. It's been a little while since I've called in. I've been listening to the show every day and keep getting pumped, man, because I know we're getting close to some football and, more importantly, Raiders football. I'm psyched and ready to go. Hey, listen to the show today, man, when you were talking about how good our defense is, and I'm psyched to see what happens. I've been a Raider fan for about 50 years, so I remember some of those early defenses you were talking about, back in the late 70s, early 80s. I remember, like, the Squirick interception and how we just beat up teams that we thought they were going to run all over us. and I know we got some studs on the defense, so I'm hoping we're going to see the same thing. But I got to play the devil's advocate here, and I got to ask for your thoughts on this. So I know today and throughout the week we've been talking about how, the offense may be a little better than we expect based on the fact that they're going against such a great defense in our defense. But what if maybe we're looking at it through rose-colored glasses, and maybe the defense isn't quite as good as we think it is because it's going against a brand-new offense that's really not performing very well. So I'm just wondering what weaknesses or issues might be exploited by, a better offense. An offense that's got a really good offensive line and, some big-time receivers. Now, I know we got some studs on receivers, tight ends, and whatnot, but anyway, I'm just curious your thoughts on that. Being a diehard fan, I'm just going to say, my devil's advocate post is all for naught because our defense is going to be awesome. But just wonder what your thoughts might be on that. Hey, Q, appreciate what you do, man. Ready for some Raider football, Raider Nation. Go Raiders. Just win, baby.
Joe, thanks for the call. I appreciate you. Good stuff, man. And a very valid question. You and us should look at it from both sides, right? The reason I feel confident that this defense is the real deal is because of what they did last season, right? We saw them do it last season. We saw them go into Kansas City, and even though Aiden O'Connell didn't complete a pass after the first quarter, they found a way to win, right? They slowed down, just about stopped Patrick Mahomes in the Chiefs offense. They got 2 defensive touchdowns that game, right? I mean, so that's why, right? Not to mention they've improved the roster. Christian Wilkins, some young guys that have been added to the mix that will play a factor sometime this year. That's something to get excited about. Patrick Graham is now in year 3 of the, as a defensive coordinator, and he can really unload the clip, right? He has a chance to really make this defense special. Now, if he does that and the defense is as good as I think it's going to be, which is top 3 defense, he's going to be off to a head coaching job. And big ups to him. He should, right? I wouldn't be mad at that. Again, I'm not calling them the 2000 Ravens defense. I don't think that they're going to, hold teams to like 10 points per game. But I do think that they have a really good chance to be special, and that's why. But your concern is very valid. Not mad at that. Thanks for the call, Joe. It's good to hear from you. Up next, got a text from Jake in Iowa. It says, hey, Q, it's Jake in Iowa. I'm making the drive to Minneapolis this weekend. I understand preseason games don't matter, but what do you expect we could take away from the first exhibition, and who do you think we'll be talking about on Monday? That's Jake in Iowa. Hey, good call, or good text, I should say. Thanks so much for that. And you know what? We might say the preseason games don't matter, but for the Raiders, preseason games are going to matter. This team in particular, this year's team, especially with the quarterback situation, Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew are both going to play a quarter. Antonio Pierce said that both guys are going to play at least a quarter, right? And so I think that these guys, as they're still trying to figure out who's going to be the starting quarterback, need game action. So this is actually something to pay attention to and look forward to, and then also there's young guys that you're going to see. I've been ranting and raving about DeCam Richardson, the 4th-round pick out of Mississippi State. I think he's got an opportunity to be special. Right, I've been talking a lot about Dylan Lobby, the 6th-round pick out of New Hampshire, the running back. I think he could be special. I think he's got an opportunity to really, carve out a role on this team. MJ Devonshire starting to get his feet wet defensively. We'll see a lot from him. We get to see a lot of youngsters, and of course, we're going to get to see, the quarterbacks continue to battle it out. So, this preseason is going to be way different than other preseasons where it is going to matter what's going on. So the score's not going to matter, right? The wins or loss ain't going to matter, but the play on the field is definitely going to matter, and especially when it comes to the quarterbacks, who can protect the ball the best. That's going to be probably the biggest key. Thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. And got time for one more call. We'll get it from Dominique in the Shelby State. He's calling to talk about the Raiders offense and how they can impact the defense. He's got a big concern. Here he is, Dominique.
Hey, Q, this is Dominique from the Shelby State. Haven't called in a while, but I've definitely been listening to you still. Just a couple things. The quarterback position, I don't have any confidence. Minshew and AOC have been turning the ball over a lot, and they just don't look good. I know we'll have a good defense, but my concern is if these guys are going 3 and out every drive or turning the ball over, that defense is going to be on the field a lot, and that defense is going to wear down. So, we may have a good defense, but if they're constantly on the field, I mean, of course they're going to do their best, but they're going to give up points, man. And as of right now, I just don't see this offense with these two quarterbacks being able to do anything, I know we've got weapons, but, also the offensive line is a concern as well with injuries. So I don't know, man. But let me know what you think. Appreciate you, Q. Have a good one.
Dominique, thanks for the call, my man. Appreciate you. I mean, that's the biggest concern I have. I've been saying how special this defense could be, but how do you keep them fresh, right? You have to be able to sustain drives. You have to be able to, put up some points. They're not gonna win by shutting out everybody, right? That's not going to happen. There's going to be teams that are going to score for one reason or the other, right? It's not like I said, they're not going to be the 2000 Ravens where they only allow, 10 points per game. It's just, that's not going to happen. It's 2024. It's too hard, right? It's too easy to score, I should say, as opposed to being too hard to stop everybody. It's so set up for offenses to score. You can get a special team score. You can get, your offense could turn the ball over and put up the other team in a great field position. Hell, the Ravens in 2000, who only allowed 10.6 points per game. I mean, think about it now. That was 2000. 2024, even field goal kickers are kicking 50-yard kicks consistently, right? Hitting those consistently. Think about Cash Money Carlson. You get him about 50 yards out, I feel pretty good about his chances. He might not make them all, but, hell, even 3 field goals, that's almost 10 points. So it's just they're going to have to find a way to score points, and they're going to have to find a way not to turn the ball over, right? If the Raiders don't turn the ball over and they can get good, consistent quarterback play, which is all I've been asking for quite a while, all offseason, that said, look, these guys aren't going to be elite, but if you can get good, consistent quarterback play where they don't turn the ball over, they have some drives, the run game is going, the run game is going to have to be there, and allow the defense to stay fresh, this team is going to have a chance to surprise some folks. I picked them to win 9, 10, 11 games if the ball bounces the right way for them, 11 being the high end, 9 being the floor. They won 8 games last year, and they went through hell and high water. So I think that they should at least be around 9 wins, and ideally 10, because double-digit wins gives you a chance at the playoffs. But, Dominique, thanks so much for your call. Your concern is understandable for sure. So thanks so much. I do appreciate you. Got a text from D Real Raider. Got a call from Raider Guru and a text from George, the Jack Tatum Raider in St. Louis. We'll get all those coming up on tomorrow's show. This is actually my last show I'll do from Costa Mesa, and I'm actually recording this on Wednesday night. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm about to get in the car. I'm about to load it up, get on the highway, and start driving. So by the time that I get back to the house and get settled in, it's going to be well after midnight. So want to make sure that the show is available for you ASAP. So as soon as it clicks Thursday morning, boom, there it is, ready for you. So my next show will come to you live from Studio Q. I'll be back at home, and man, I'll be happy about that. So Raider Nation, again, it's been awesome being here in Costa Mesa. It was great meeting everyone that listens to the show, that came out to the Jack Hammett Sports Complex. And, again, thanks for coming along on the ride with me every single day. I also want to shout out to Ross Jackson, host of Locked On Saints. Show him some love, man. He's the one, if you've been checking out our little 1-minute YouTube things that I've been putting out. I guess they're called shorts. I don't even really know. I'm not the YouTube guy, as you know. That's Ari. But he's the one that's been putting those things together for me. I record a video at the sports complex. I send it to him, and boom, like 2 minutes later, he sends me back, nice and framed, has it up on the YouTube page. So if you've been enjoying those little 1-minute shorts, then Ross Jackson, host of Locked On Saints, is the reason for that. So I want to give him big props, and of course give my man Ari big props as well, who's been dealing with me while I'm on the road, and it's less than ideal situations at times, but he's taken the challenge and he's ran with it, and he's done a hell of a job. So thank you, Ari, as I always do. Thank you. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.